Hello and welcome to the chesscreator.com YouTube video channel. In today's video I'd like to go through a very aggressive example of Fromm's Gambit. Fromm's Gambit is a response to the bird opening, and it begins f4, e5. Black is basically looking to sacrifice a pawn in return for very active piece play, particularly dark square, light square bishops and his queen. This game continued with my opponent accepting the gambit line as follows, and here I recapture with the dark square bishop. If you look at the position here, you'll notice white's f2 square is very weak and queen h4 would actually deliver mate, so white has to do something to defend that position. Knight f3. Now there are a few lines in Fromm's Gambit which I'll leave you to research yourself. This game, which I played under 5-minute time controls, shows one of the more aggressive lines for black, which is g5 intending g4 to drive away the knight and once again renew the threat of queen h4 check or even checkmate. My opponent plays d4 and I carry out my threat of g4. Here white themselves chooses a very aggressive response to this, which is to play knight g5, intending to sacrifice the knight on f7, which is a very aggressive line sometimes seen out of King's Gambit positions. I continue to kick the knight, making him decide whether he's going to sacrifice or not, and indeed he does. Sacrifices the knight and I recapture with the king, making it a very open game. My opponent plays e4, opening up diagonals for both his bishops. I now play queen h4 check, and effectively white has to move his king. g3 is met by bishop captures d3 and the pawn is pinned, so if he recaptures then I would win the exchange. So king e2. Here I try and exploit the pin on the h1 rook by playing g3, and in addition to creating that problem for white, it also opens up the possibility of bishop g4 check, winning white's queen. White spots this and plays king d3. I now develop with knight f6, and my opponent plays queen f3. Sorry about that. Let's just go back a couple of moves. I continue with rook e8, knight c3 and bishop g4. And at this point black has incredible piece activity. Pretty much all his pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces are in the game, compared to white having their queen and their knight active in the game. And here, under time pressure, my opponent basically falls apart and plays queen f5, which clearly is game over. But let's go back to their only other logical move, which was queen e3, because I actually thought, just by considering this position, that black still has a winning game, and engine checking this briefly, I believe I did, but it's quite interesting just to work through some of the examples. So if queen e3, I plan to play knight c6, and at the moment this is giving somewhere around between a 6 and an 8 point advantage to black. I thought queen h6 was an interesting try to try and swap off queens, but my plan for this was to play knight b4, and this is as far ahead as I thought in the game. Here white cannot play king e3 because king e3 leads to checkmate as follows. So the only other option is to play king c4, and here things get very complicated for white with bishop e6 check, knight d5, bishop takes knight, and queen e4. And at this point, one of the few options for white would be bishop d3, capture, capture, and at this point Houdini is actually giving a mate in 5. So even though my opponent didn't blunder in the game, irrespective of that, even if they had continued with the most accurate moves, I still believe black had a winning position from this gambit. So what did I learn from this? Well, as I've said before, I think From's gambit, particularly in short time controls, is very, very dangerous. If the gambit line is upsetted, white really has to know what they're doing to stave off the attack. The other thing is, if you play any opening, e4, f4, d4, you really have to know the most common gambit lines, and in the bird's opening, it's pretty much From's gambit, so it's definitely worth learning if you play against the bird's opening, and also pretty essential to understand some of the main lines if you play the bird's opening yourself. So I hope that was interesting, I hope it's useful, and if you like the video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you'll get notified of future videos. In the meantime, I hope this helps give you some information about the From's gambit, and if you have any comments or questions, please send them to me on YouTube. Thanks.